And our top focus story on this special broadcast is intensification of Israel's operations against the Hezbollah in Lebanon. Not just in southern Lebanon, but several localities in Beirut have been targeted. But Hezbollah, even after close to a fortnight of operations mounted by Israeli Air Force and ground forces, Hezbollah is able to strike and strike with impunity. There was a massive barrage of rocket attacks on Haifa and Tiberias. Haifa is the third largest city in Israel with a population of over 1 million people, and Haifa was targeted by the Hezbollah from not just southern Lebanon, but apparently longer range rockets were also fired from other parts of Lebanon. It was an intense night, late last night. It all began between 11:30 at night and midnight when the air raid sirens went off here in Haifa on Mount Carmel, where I am. That's the Haifa Bay behind me, beyond which is Lebanon. And massive air raid sirens were heard through the night, the incoming rockets, and then the Iron Dome system got activated. So while some rockets that were falling on built-up areas, they were neutralized. Some fell, one, in open areas, on roads, in busy intersections, but the debris of some rockets have fallen in a marketplace close to a residential area, and there are at least 10 injuries according to local media that have been reported in this area. Till very late at night, you could hear emergency vehicles, you could hear sirens blaring through the night. You could also hear the Iron Dome system get activated repeatedly here in Haifa, also in adjoining Tiberias. The Israeli forces mounted a swift counter-attack. Through the night, you could hear in Israeli Air Force fighter jets fly over this place, exactly over this place, flying towards southern Lebanon and perhaps attempting to take out some of those rocket launch sites, because Israel uses its weapon locating radars to triangulate where that incoming rocket came from and immediately attempts to launch a counter attack. I want to cut across to India. Today's Ashraf Vani, who joins us from Beirut for more on the story. Ashraf, the Israeli Air Force launched a series of counter-attacks, as Israel puts it. Also, some intelligence-based operations were mounted to take out some leadership of the Hezbollah, also some warehouses. What more can you tell us? The night must have been extremely tense in and around Beirut.
Absolutely, Gaurav, and luckily I am on the mountain top where you can and our viewers can assess the situation through visuals. I want to show you first of all where South Suburb is, which is on the target of the IDF since last Friday when Saint Nasrallah was targeted in one of the biggest airstrikes. Then since then there is not any kind of let off in the aerial raids and aerial attacks here in the suburb of Beirut. You can see from this part the south suburb of the Beirut city starts. Now you can easily check the visuals. This is the part of which is on the mountains, and even you can see in the visuals the airport of Beirut, which is not far from this area. And now you can count the places or the installations from where the smoke, high fumes of smoke are coming out. Here I can see, you can see this is one place. Then you can move on another. I can count from here, second, third, fourth, at least at the 12 locations the fumes of smoke is coming out, which had been targeted during the previous night. And what the IDF claims that one of them is the warehouse, the weapon house of the Hezbollah, which was targeted late last night. And since the smoke is coming out, we tried to reach that spot, but the Hezbollah security guards did not allow to enter that premises because they said that probably there are some unexploded bombs which may get triggered by the fire, and probably there is much danger in the vicinity. That is why they are not being allowed. But huge and heavy smoke layer has now got formed on the suburb of Beirut. You can see here from this side also. Yes, you can see. And you can see, and also the movements of aircrafts from
in fact,
the airport.
that's the point, Ashraf.
Yes, and
That's the
I
point
think
that Israel's making constantly. Multiple the fact that you can hear multiple sympathetic detonations from that warehouse that you're describing. Israel says it had pinpoint intelligence. It had absolutely accurate intelligence about where Hezbollah was stocking its longer range missiles and rockets, and that's the place it targeted with its precision guided munition. So the first blast that was heard was the Israeli bomb that was falling on the warehouse, and the multiple blasts you've heard almost through the night and plumes of smoke that continue to rise and an occasional explosion is the sympathetic detonation, because that Israeli bomb has triggered all the rockets and explosives and other warlike stores kept in that ammunition depot or that weapons depot of the Hezbollah, triggering the sympathetic blast. So that's a major blow, according to Israeli officials, to the Hezbollah. But Ashraf, stay with me, because Israel right now is fighting a war virtually on multiple fronts. There are intelligence inputs that seem to indicate that even Hamas is regrouping, and that Hamas can launch another attack in southern Israel. As suspense now intensifies over what Israel's next move will be, especially against what Israel describes as the fountainhead of terror, or Iran, after Iran had launched those rockets against and missiles against ballistic missiles against Israel on the 1st of October. Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, has once again issued a warning to Israel. Ayatollah Ali Khamenei said that the attack on Israel was the minimum punishment for what he described was a Zionist bloodthirsty regime. In an open warning, Khamenei said Iran can attack Israel again if required. Responding to Khamenei's threat, Israel's defense minister Yoav Gallant said Iran will also end up looking like Gaza or Beirut if it tries to harm Israel. Amidst increasing tensions with Iran, Israel continues to fight the Hezbollah and the Hamas and also the Islamic Jihad in West Bank. So Israel is actually fighting what Israel describes are terrorists of Hezbollah and Islamic Jihad on multiple fronts, and of course Hamas in Gaza. Hezbollah rockets triggered interception system in northern Israel on Sunday, but some localities were damaged in this strike. India Today's Ashraf Vani joining me live from Beirut on this day's top developments. And Ashraf, the situation continues to worsen. It appears almost every day. It's not just war clouds. Yes, it's overcast today, but these are more than just war clouds that are looming. The war, in some manner, in some ways, is already on, with ground forces making shallow incursions just as yet into Lebanon. Air attacks intensifying, and air attacks now on multiple fronts against the Hamas in West Bank and also against the Hezbollah in Lebanon.
And also Syria, Gaurav, in the other side. So this seven front war has been already started by the IDF. Particularly today is a very significant day. It is the 7th of October, when last year on the same day, first time in the history of Israel, such kind of a mass killing was carried out by the Hamas fighters inside the Israel. Since then, on that day, the Benjamin Netanyahu, as well as the defense minister of Israel, said that we are going to punish each and every enemy. They started this war, but it was not expected that it would go so long. Still, there are hostages on the Gaza side of with Hamas of Israel. So it is clearly that unless and until those hostages will not be returned back, and also where you are currently, 70,000 people are displaced from the northern part of Israel. That IDF wants to ensure their safe return to their homes. But as far as the capabilities of Hamas and Hezbollah is concerned, they are being too much powered by the Iran, because Iran knows that they have to strengthen these both proxies, Hamas as well as Hezbollah. Then they can only counter the Israeli attacks on the Iran as well as on these parts. Particularly, as I was saying, that during last 1 week, the way in which the IDF has intensified its attacks and strikes on the Hezbollah, that may have put some kind of damage. But we have seen yesterday evening how still the Hezbollah is capable to carry out the missile strikes, rocket attacks in any part of the northern Israel. What we have seen yesterday evening when Haifa was targeted, more than 10 people got injured in that missile strike, and also some of them fell on the houses which damaged them. And same is the scenario with the Hamas. They might be weak, but still they have the potential to carry out any kind of attack. That is what is with the IDF. They have intelligence inputs probably on this anniversary when
it's very interesting you should mention that, Ashraf. Hamas may be down, but Hamas very clearly is not out. That's the big story that Israel is also constantly warning its people against, the world against, that Hamas, despite its operations and relentless Israeli operations that have been on for the past 1 year, Hamas is still not out. Hamas still has access to a lot of weapons and in some instances the ability to strike inside Israel. But as we talk about the multiple fronts that Israel is fighting on, there's one front that's often perhaps not highlighted as much, and that is something that is being described as the enemy within. A 19-year-old soldier, a very young woman soldier of Israel, she was killed when an Arab Israeli attacked her late yesterday, and this happened in the Beersheba area of southern Israel. Eerily similar to the attack that had taken place again by an Arab Israeli in Jaffa on the 1st of October, just moments before that Iranian missile strike. So within, there are these elements within Israel who are targeting not just the security forces in Israel, but also civilians in Israel. 5 Israelis were killed in that Jaffa attack. 1 person was killed. This woman soldier was killed, and there were several because this Arab Israeli snatched the weapon of that lady officer and then opened indiscriminate fire before he was neutralized. So there were multiple injuries even in this attack. So that's the situation right now in Israel. On ground, a country that's battling the Hezbollah, the Hamas, the Islamic Jihad, the Houthi rebels, the Shia militia in Iraq and Syria, and of course, as Israel describes, that fountainhead of all of this radical Islamist terror, that's Iran. We'll track that story, but I get you more in this report.
Israel continues to fight a multi-front war. Israeli jets continue to strike at will, targeting Hezbollah positions in Beirut. Israeli forces and Hezbollah also exchanged heavy firing. Massive consecutive strikes hit Beirut's southern suburbs, sending tremors across the city. Sparking flashes of red and white were seen for nearly 30 minutes, visible from several kilometers away.
This is about an hour's drive from Haifa in northern Israel, and this is one of the worst impacted areas. Whether it's Galil a little ahead or Metula, these are areas that are directly in the line of Hezbollah fire. Rocket attacks have happened just a short while back, and if you look all around, this place is virtually abandoned. A very, very bustling tourist town. This is virtually abandoned. This, of course, is the Arab quarter here. There are some men, of course, who are still staying behind. Most of the women and children have been sent to a safer area. The men are staying behind so that they can look after their property. They can look after this area.
Israel has targeted this city since Thursday evening, and first time the city of Tyre has been targeted by the IDF. During last 24 hours, 200 aerial strikes were carried out by the IDF. When we go on the right side of me, those mountains you are seeing, that is the Israeli area. They are not only mortar shelling this city since last 24 hours, but also bombarding it with the aerial strikes.
Israeli forces destroyed a 250-meter Hezbollah tunnel near northern Israel. The tunnel was believed to be built with the intent to facilitate a large-scale attack. reminiscent of the October 7 assault and hostage-taking in southern Israel. Hezbollah retaliated with airstrikes on Israel. However, Israel's Iron Dome air defense system intercepted Hezbollah rockets fired from Lebanon. Israel also conducted airstrikes on a mosque in the Gaza Strip that has left over 19 killed. Gaza authorities said that the mosque is near a shelter housing those displaced in the war. But Israel said it targeted a Hamas command and control center embedded among civilians. Amid Israeli preparations for a potential strike on Iran, the commander of the US Central Command arrived in Israel. A major diplomatic brawl between Israel and France erupted over French President Emmanuel Macron's call for arms embargoes against Tel Aviv. While French President Emmanuel Macron insisted on halting arms to Israel to reach a political situation in Gaza, Israeli Prime Minister called it a shameful move in a statement.
Je voudrais là aussi confirmer, comme je l'ai fait dans mon propos introductif, le fait que nous tiendrons donc dans les toutes prochaines semaines cette conférence de soutien qui a vocation à apporter de l'aide humanitaire et à consolider les efforts de la communauté internationale et à apporter aussi des éléments de soutien aux forces armées libanaises pour sécuriser, en particulier le sud Liban.
We're fighting against Iran, which last week fired over 200 ballistic missiles directly at Israel, and which stands behind the seven-front war against Israel. As Israel fights the forces of barbarism led by Iran, all civilized countries should be standing firmly by Israel's side. Yet President Macron and some other Western leaders are now calling for an arms embargo against Israel.
Israel has also vowed to strike Iran itself after it launched a ballistic missile attack on the country last week. With Gaurav Sawant in Haifa, Ashrafani in Lebanon, Bureau Report, India Today.